Well, they came inside, and the first matter on the agenda, as far as Violet was concerned, was to give Edgy a good lunch. She liked to cook anyway, and Edgy, in fact, was hungry. He'd left the boss's place that morning and a little early, and that's why it's the first time probably in his life he got someplace early. It just wasn't his way. But anyway, they sat down to a lunch, not a fancy dinner, but a lunch, and what to talk about. I mean, there was some weighty matters to be dealt with here, but Edgy wanted to know about family, and he wanted to know how Rosemary was doing. Now, Rosemary, remember, is Violet's older sister, who also served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Catalina de Rocha. Now, Edgy kept in touch with her, but not as close as Violet. And so he wanted to know how she was, and she was fine. He also asked about Violet's oldest sister, Sage. He was like that. I mean, I told you already, he's so smart, but it's just hard to explain. I mean, he cared about family, and he remembered, and he kept in touch, and so he wanted to keep updated. And now for her part, Violet was fascinated by the fact that Edgy's fairy grandson's wedding was coming up. She wanted to know all about that, and he was marrying another Vietnamese woman, Lee, I think was her name, and so he told her about that and how Lee had this sense of humor, and he was looking forward to the wedding. It was this coming Saturday, so he didn't have all that long. He had a deadline. He did have to get back. Well, it was a week away. So they had a nice lunch, and then now. Violet wanted to know what this business was that Edgy had with the boss. And Edgy smiled and he said, well, you're involved too. But I'll tell you about that, but not just yet. Since you're so concerned about this upcoming hearing, let's talk about that. And so what Violet did was said, well, let's go out back, because there's the scene of the quote-unquote crimes that I suppose allegedly committed in the backyard there, and so anyway, they went back, and Violet told her tale, which you know already, because if you've listened to the first book, Lance, it's told a couple times, I think, there, and it'll come up again in court, what actually happened, two versions of it in the hearing. So I don't really need to tell it to you now, but anyway, they went back there, and Violet was saying that up there was her neighbor Teydis's porch, and that's where he was when this incident happened, and she told him all about it. Well, when they looked up there, there was Teydis. He was sitting on the porch, and he didn't think they had noticed him, and he was real curious. He'd never actually met Edgy before. He thought he'd seen him down there, because he spent a lot of time watching what was going on down there. He'd seen him, but he never actually met him. And when they caught his eye, well, both Violet and Edgy, they waved to him. I mean, it was just a natural neighborly thing to do, How you doing? And that just threw Teydis into confusion. How could they do that? I mean, he was accusing her of a very serious crime, and here she's acting like she's friendly, and so is he. He waved back because it was automatic, but he thought, what am I doing? Then shortly after that, he went back inside, and he was all confused. And when he thought it over for a while, he said, I know what they're doing. They're making fun of me. That's what they're doing. you know, that why he had such a twisted mind. But he made up his mind that was what was going on, and that this friend of Violet's was there is probably his attorney, her attorney probably, but he was going to get an even better one. Well, you know, when he was gone, Edgy and Violet headed back in, and Edgy couldn't help saying, "Did you? What a nose that guy's got! I mean, it was such a remarkable thing. I haven't told you about that yet." And he said, "It reminds me of Cyrano de Bergerac." But Violet actually knew that story, and she said, "Well, yeah, he makes up for what other people might think is a handicap or something by thinking so highly of himself. Supposedly, he just thinks everyone ought to have a nose like that, but for her part, she couldn't help thinking it was more like Pinocchio's nose, because it seemed over time to be getting longer."